Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Since we are meeting here for the first time in this setting, I welcome you all to the State House. I thank you for accepting my invitation to attend this traditional event to commemorate the end of 2021 and welcoming the year 2022. I know I've met you, some of you, in some other occasions, but this is the first time we meet all together. It is my hope that I will have an opportunity to continue meeting all of you again as the year progresses. Yes. In any case, I'm gratified by the continued cooperation and mutual understanding that exists between us. We have witnessed outstanding levels of cooperation in the year 2021, and I thank each of you for playing your part to ensure that our relations are strengthened and nurtured. I'm particularly grateful for the support you accorded us through your participation during our 60 years of anniversary of Tanganyika. As a country, a lot has been achieved, but we still know more needs to be done, and we count on your unwavering support to ensure more development targets are attained. As for those of you who joined diplomatic community recently, I hope you have settled down and have a good stay in our country. I wish to assure you of my personal cooperation and that of my government in facilitating your duties while you are here. Let me extend my best wishes for the new year to you all, and through you to your heads of state and government, heads of respective institutions, your people, as well as your spouse and staffs. Excellencies, the year 2021 was one of the tragic years to our nation. For the first time in our history, we lost a sitting president, the late Dr. John Pombe Magufuli, who passed away on 17th March 2021. In line with our constitutional provision, as then the Vice President of my dear country, I ascended to presidency in a very peaceful transition. On one hand, and on behalf of the people of the United Republic of Tanzania and myself, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to you all for the outpouring and overwhelming messages of condolences that you shared with us. On the other hand, allow me to thank you all for the flurry of congratulatory messages I received after assuming the presidency. Taking the mantle of leadership under such hasty circumstances, I needed all the best wishes to take on challenging but certainly surmountable role. After assuming the presidency, I outlined my motto, which is stability, continuity, and change, and the following have been my priorities. Number one, strengthening democracy, good governance, and rule of law. Number two, transformation and simplification of tax collection and tax administration systems. Number three, working closely with the private sector and enhance public-private partnership. Number four, managing and maintaining economic growth and industrialization. Number five, promoting investments in the country and improving business environment. Number six, continuation of investment in infrastructure and social support services in order to improve the lives of our people. Number seven, improving bilateral, regional, and multilateral cooperation. And number eight, protecting the environment, and harnessing the benefits of the blue economy. Excellencies, members of the diplomatic community, in the essence of time, today I will only give a brief synopsis of few areas, and let me start with political situation and democratic space. Tanzania has continued to enjoy peace, stability, and tranquility in all spheres of life, be it political, economic, social, or cultural. This situation has provided the government with the opportunity to focus its efforts on strengthening the economy as well as improving social being of our people. In our efforts to enhance democracy, my government has continued to allow freedom of expression through mass media. Furthermore, the Registrar of Political Parties organized a meeting from 15th to 17th December last year in Dodoma. All political parties and other stakeholders were invited for a brainstorming session to collect views on how best to improve democratic situation in the country. The parties were free to express their concerns, and their final recommendations have been finalized and put together. A follow-up committee has been established to work on the recommendations, and we in the government are waiting for their report to chart the way forward. Talking on COVID-19 pandemic, we are meeting at a time when the world is still grappling with the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic, which has brought major world economies to their knees and has not spared ours either. To a developing country like Tanzania, whose health sector was already demanding betterment, COVID-19 has not only put a huge burden on it, but also has exacerbated economic and environmental crisis, as well as disruption on demand and supply chain in all fronts. We were stuck in the twilight of protecting lives and livelihoods. We did not impose lockdowns, but our GDP growth was below 5%, compelling us to undertake several measures, including joining the COVAX facility and to leverage COVID recovery stimulus packages from both multilateral and bilateral sources to keep our economy abreast. Excellencies, as a country, we'll continue to adhere to the WHO guidelines and protocols in the fight against COVID-19, and we will enhance our inoculation campaign. I'm aware of the advent of new variants of the virus, which call for global concerted efforts in terms of vaccine distribution to match their advent. The vaccine inequality we're experiencing is having negative effects to most of our developing economies because as the world begins to get on its feet and open up, our unvaccinated patriots continue to face all kinds of stigma when they travel overseas. Our countries are put on red list zones, thus missing out on important revenues accruing from tourism. It is my humble request that through you today, your countries and institutions will invoke the multilateralism spirit by ensuring vaccine equity and waiving of vaccine patents to ensure that we can afford to produce the vaccines in our home countries. Leaving major part of the world population unvaccinated is a major injustice to humanity because no one is safe until everyone is safe. Meanwhile, it is equally important to know that progress has been made in the health sector in general. We increased the budget of this sector from Tanzania shilling 933.3 billion in 2020 to 1 trillion.07 in 2021. At the same time, we allocated 42% of the COVID funds to health sector. Such efforts have enabled us to build and equip health delivery centers and dealing with diseases. There were, in addition to the employment of the new doctors, nurses, and other professionals in 2021. Excellencies, on economic sector, from January to September 2021, our economy grew at a rate of 4.9% compared to 4.8% at the same period in the year 2020, and 7% in 2019. You can see the drop from 7% to presently 4.9%. Like elsewhere, the drop was caused by the COVID-19 outbreak that hit the world. However, the outbreak looks promising as most of the macroeconomic indicators are improving. The inflation rate has remained within the target of 3 to 5% for 2021-2022, and it is in this line, it is in line with the East African Community and Southern African Development Convergence criteria. The overall lending rates are averaged at 16.40%, decreasing from 16.65% and 16.61% respectively in 2020 and 2019. However, the negotiated lending rates or lending rates charged to prime customers remained unchanged at around 14%. In reviving our COVID-hit economy, we injected the recovery stimulus package. We remain grateful to the IMF for the soft loan of US $467.3 million, which were injected in areas that directly impacted the socio-economic livelihood of our people, to recover areas that were badly hit by the pandemic, such as tourism sector. To ensure transparency and accountability, I publicly declared how the government planned to spend the funds. A significant amount of the fund was injected in key areas of education, health, and water. They form an important part in the fight against COVID-19 and other communicable diseases. With the onset of the rollover of the COVID-19 vaccines, trade and transportation activities have reopened. I'm happy that things are taking good shape at this time. On the investment outlook, we continue to make efforts to improve business environment by strengthening our laws, guidelines, and practices to encourage and preserve investments. Investment generates jobs, capital, and tax revenue to our country. For instance, in 2021, our investment center registered 256 new projects, which were expected to generate 53,025 jobs and 3.749 billion capital. In the education sector, we have continued to offer free education for all from primary to secondary school levels. However, with free education comes the challenges of classrooms to accommodate the high enrollment rates. Therefore, we endeavor to ensure that all children are accommodated by constructing a total of 15,000 classrooms, of which 3,000 for primary schools and 12,000 for secondary schools, to decongest our classrooms and ensure all school-age children are admitted. Meanwhile, we were also able to hire 6,949 teachers for primary and secondary schools, but our challenges still lies in hiring more teachers, getting more textbooks and laboratory equipment, as well as other teaching and learning materials in our schools. As for the tertiary education, we have increased the budget for higher education students or students' loans from Tanzania shilling 467 billion in 2020-21 to Tanzania shilling 570 billion in 2021-2022, which has led to an increase of the number of beneficiaries from 149,389 for the year 2020-21 to 176,617 in the year 2021-22, including 70,396 new ones. In ensuring an all-inclusive development agenda, we have reinstated our girls who dropped out of school due to pregnancy to resume their education. We are cognizant that without free, inclusive, and quality education to our people, our industrialization agenda remains elusive. We are on track on goal number 4 on the Sustainable Development Goals. May I take this opportunity to appeal for increased support and cooperation in our endeavors to ensure provision of quality education for our people. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we remain on track for the construction of the flagship infrastructure project that were initiated by my predecessor. These are roads, railway networks, air and water transport, and mega energy projects, some of which got encouraged support from your countries and for which we appreciate so much. Just to give you a brief overview, we have made tremendous progress in the construction of tarmac roads network, implementation of rural electrification program being undertaken by the Rural Energy Agency. As of December 31st, 2021, there were 8,654 electrified villages, which is 70.1% of all the villages in the country. We hope to electrify 9,698 villages by June 2022, which accounts to 78.4%. Other efforts on electrification programs in progress, including peri-urban and densification A and B, which involves the electrification of hamlets. We have also continued strengthening our airline fleet by the purchase of 1 cargo plane, as well as the acquisition of 8 water vessels, which will be distributed equally to each part of the Union to spearhead the blue economy. I want to specifically thank IFAD for their help and guidance in the acquisition of these vessels. On another note, the construction of the Standard Gauge Railway is also advancing. Lot 1 and 2 are almost done, and we have commenced the construction of 368 kilometers of Lot 3 from Makutupora to Tabora, where we have already made advance payment. 164 kilometers from Tabora to Isaka, which is Lot 4, whereby the procurement process is ongoing. Construction of 341 kilometers from Mwanza to Isaka of Lot 5 is ongoing, and we are at 4% of construction. We are equally on progress on the construction of Julius Nyerere Hydropower Project, which is one of our core energy sources in our industrialization drive. The dam is set to produce 2,115 megawatts, and so far, construction is at 53.2%. I'm taking keen interest on this project not only for its economic viability, but also for its contribution to the preservation of our environment. Upon completion, the project will significantly contribute to the achievement of our ambitious national determined contribution, whereby we committed to reduce emission between 30 to 35% by 2030, which is equivalent to 138 to 153 million tons of carbon. We committed ourselves to such an ambition NDC because we are already experiencing the negative effects of climate change, especially a change in our rain patterns, causing dry spells, which threaten the livelihood of our livestock, food shortages, and erratic climate effects, such as floods, rising temperatures, and sea level siltation, and others. I want to assure you that we are monitoring the situation closely, and there is no cause for early alarm, as we have sufficient food reserve in case this shortage threatens overall food security. In terms of erratic climate effects, we have authorities to keep us on alert on the negative effects. It remains our hope that developed countries will raise above rhetoric in this matter and move swiftly and urgently to fulfill their financial commitments by unlocking climate finance and implement technology transfers that will trigger our planned targets for combating climate change. Excellencies, talking on bilateral cooperation, as a resource-constrained nation, isolationism is not a foreign policy option for us. We are fully aware of the limits of our capacity to implement these priorities. We therefore take partnership with our friends and allies very seriously, as they afford us with meaningful headways in the implementation of our development agenda. In that regard, I'm pleased of the progress we are making in fostering bilateral cooperation with each of your countries. And on regional cooperation, fostering regionalism is one of the key tenets of our foreign policy. We place firm belief on the role of regional and sub-regional organizations to address regional challenges and attain collective developmental aspiration in areas of peace and security, democracy, trade and investment, infrastructural and social sectors. It is for this reason, and of course other considerations, that during the EAC Virtual Summit in December 2021, we agreed in principle on the admission of the Democratic Republic of Congo as the 7th member of the regional bloc. We believe that the inclusion of DRC would be beneficial to our integration. In the same spirit, I'm glad to have taken the mantle of leadership at a time when the region is relatively peaceful, save for some pockets, such as the situation in Mozambique. As you may be aware, Tanzania is part of the SADC mission, mandated by the extraordinary SADC summit that took place in Maputo on 23 June 2021, where we have contributed troops to Mozambique. Good progress has been made since the deployment of the SADC mission in Mozambique, and Samim's mandate has been extended for 3 more months. Excellencies, trade is a very important building block for regional integration. As a nation, we continue to take various steps to remove impediments to trade with our regional allies. Ratification of the African Continental Free Trade Area by our Parliament is an important step in joining other African nations in the creation of a single African market of 100.2 billion consumers with a total GDP of US $3.4 trillion, which will effectively make Africa the largest free trade area in the world. On foreign policy review, we are on the final stage of revising our foreign policy to reflect the changes and new developments in the world while taking into account the existing good elements. The new policy will continue to focus on economic diplomacy and reflect on new developments such as blue economy, environment and climate change, digital economy, promoting Kiswahili as a tool for diplomacy and trade and diaspora engagement in the national development. We welcome the decision by UNESCO to adopt and commemorate World Kiswahili Language every 7th July. We are grateful for all those who supported this resolution. It means a lot to us because Kiswahili is not only a tool for everyday communication, but a beacon for shared cultural identities, historical values, and visions. We remain committed to work tirelessly to extend its use and continue inspiring the world with the rich values of the language. It is my sincere hope that the review of the policy will be a major step towards catalyzing our relationship in key areas of cooperation and partnerships across multiple sectors of the economy. We continue our mutual cooperation with your governments at the international fora as we're counting on your support and cooperation on issues of particular interest to our country and continent. Excellencies, you are aware that all government ministries, most departments and agencies have now moved to Dodoma. I understand that all diplomatic missions in Tanzania have been allocated sites to construct your missions as well as residences. I want to assure you that my government will continue to invest in the development of the necessary infrastructure to ensure all necessary services are readily accessed in the city. I urge you to utilize the investment opportunities available in the capital. I assure you that we have made efforts to warrant ease of doing business and creating a conducive environment free from bottlenecks like nuisance taxes, investment unfriendly policies, and loosening restrictions that limits growth of business and discouraging investment. Your Excellencies, or Your Excellency, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Excellencies, heads of diplomatic mission, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, allow me to reassure you of my own commitment and that of my government in enhancing the existing cooperation and partnership with you and your dear countries and organizations. It is my sincere hope that you will continue to carry out your tasks in strict adherence to the diplomatic protocols and guidelines to take our relations scale to greater heights. Once again, I wish you, your countries and organizations, along with your families and staff, a happy and prosperous New Year 2022. And I hope this year will bring more peace and prosperity, healthier and happier life. Let us toast. Do you have your glasses? Then we'll toast when we have our dinner. That's where we are going to toast. So I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, for those great words. Even while you're seated, please, another round of applause. Your Excellency, the President, as you've just encouraged us that we will have a toast on the other side, before we do that, we have two activities. So we will have a photo session, but before that, we will have members of the Diplomatic Corps come and greet you one by one. And I would like to encourage all members, when you come forward, We will have 4 photographs taken outside. The first photograph will have all ambassadors and high commissioners. And then the second one, we will have SHEREHE. The third photograph will have representatives of international organizations. And then the fourth photograph will be honorary consuls. And last but not least, members of management from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation. So I understand all the members of the diplomatic corps understand the order, and I'm looking at Her Excellency. Yes, she's ready. She is ready to meet you all. So we have a black mark, so we are going to encourage you to stand there when you're meeting Her Excellency. The Dean, Karibu Sana. And then we will all follow in the same order. Thank you so much.
Aga, aga. Mama, mama, we. Aga, Tanzania yetu. Mama, we, mama, we. Tanzania wangu ni muungano wetu. Tofauti zetu zisibadili kitu. Utanzania wangu